Someone asked me recently, as someone who runs a 100-person company, how do you stay motivated? Look, okay. So if you don't know, my little mate here has been in the wars a bit. He broke his leg recently. So he's just got out of hospital. We were in hospital for 3 weeks, which was not the easiest thing in the world, but he loves going to the airport. Where do you want to go?
The fly.
Where do you want to go?
The airport.
Do you want to go to the airport? He hasn't been to the airport for a while. It's a little bit of a treat for him. This thing about motivation is really important because motivation literally means the thing that forces you to act. So without motivation, you have inaction. And inaction leads to death. Sounds a bit brutal, but it's true. Right, Luca?
Airport.
So this thing about what motivates us is really important. And I've been through a journey to learn what motivates me personally. So I hope this is useful. So here's Tim's guide to getting motivated. When we come to the airport, we open the boot and we sit in the boot because it's always freezing and it's always gross here. To be honest, the weather's so gross, I'm not sure we're gonna see a single airplane today, Luca. Where are they? You wanna sit on my lap?
The fly.
The most we can see is 2 airplanes parked. Now the first thing is, I don't think that motivation levels are inherent. I don't think they're something you're born with. My blue eyes are inherent, that means they're there all the time, but my motivation isn't. It ebbs and flows and it takes work to keep at a good level. Now, this is good news because if your motivation was inherent, you wouldn't have any control over it, but you do, so that's great. The second thing is that motivation isn't easy. It takes time and energy to get motivated in the first place, and it takes time and energy to stay motivated. It's a little bit like relationships, motorways, and Christmas cake. They all take time and effort to build, but generally they're worth the effort. So in this video, we're going to talk about how I get motivated, and in the next video, we're going to talk about how to stay motivated once you're pursuing a goal and it feels like you're kind of being pulled off track a bit. Now for me, getting motivated in the first place usually requires some kind of goal, a destination that we're going to, like I'm really wanting to go home now because I'm so cold. And I've used goal setting throughout my life, but what I've figured out is the things that motivate me, the destinations that motivate me aren't always that logical. For example, I've never been driven that much by collecting money, but I know that in order to have a successful business, we need to collect money. So what I do is instead attach other rewards to particular batches of money that we collect. For example, I set myself a goal a while back that when Exposure Ninja had a certain amount of money in the bank, I would buy my first Range Rover. That Range Rover goal motivated me so much that by the time we got there, that Range Rover had paid for itself many times over by the actions that I'd taken in order to get that goal. So the things that most motivate me are things like pieces of technology. I'm working towards a business goal at the moment to get myself a new computer, which the goal is massive. I could buy a computer absolutely no problem at all, but the reason I'll set it as a reward for a goal is because I know that the motivation to get that new computer will far exceed the motivation for the business goal necessarily. So I think it's important to understand what motivates you and what excites you and what sort of reward works well for you. For me, I find it really difficult to motivate myself to get to a particular goal unless there is an attractive reward on the other side. Airport done, 0 airplanes, but we're just in it for the experience. Okay, so step 1 to getting motivated is deciding on a goal and choosing a reward which excites you. Step 2 is all about planning. Now, I used to have planning all wrong because I thought when you set a goal, you had to design the whole plan to get there. It turns out that you don't at all. All you need to do is know the next step. As long as you always know the next step, you'll be absolutely fine because there are some goals out there, in fact, most of the exciting ones that are actually worth going for, where you're not going to know the whole thing before you embark. The important thing is to just get started. It's a little bit like when you start on a journey and your sat-nav just gives you the next turn. The sat-nav doesn't give you the whole plan. You might not know it. The sat-nav might change its mind later on based on traffic, so the sat-nav might not know it even. But all it does is it just gives you the next turn, and lo and behold, you eventually get to your destination one turn at a time. And it's exactly the same with getting motivated. If you wait until you know the whole thing that you're going to have to do, it's so easy to get overwhelmed. Whereas if you just choose the next step, brilliant, it's much easier. So just as an example, before Christmas, I got a bit fat. Now it's all relative. I was about 17%, 16.5, 17% body fat, which for me is enough that I look a bit chunky. You know, things rub together and my clothes don't fit quite as nice. So I set a goal that by Christmas, I wanted to be 10% body fat. That goal is fairly arbitrary. It doesn't necessarily mean a huge amount. So what I had to do was set a reward. My reward was, this is gonna sound weird, but my reward was to eat mince pies over Christmas because I freaking love mince pies and I didn't have that many last Christmas. So I set myself the reward. I'd eat mince pies over Christmas if I could get to 10% body fat by Christmas. Now, I didn't know everything I was gonna have to do to get there. I had an inkling it would probably involve diet and exercise, but I didn't know exactly what I needed to do. What I did know is that my next step was gonna be to find someone who'd got people from 17% body fat to 10% body fat in about 2 months, which is how long I had. And as long as I knew that that was my goal and that was going to be my next step, fantastic. The rest would take care of itself. But you don't always need to see the whole journey before you get going. It's important that you believe the plan that you're on, I should say as well. When my trainer came back and gave me a plan, I believed it because it was diet and exercise. I knew that was going to work. A lot of fad dieters, they'll go on some crazy thing where they're just drinking like purple shakes and that's all that they drink the whole time for their diet and they're going to lose all this weight. The trouble is, as soon as there's any kind of obstacle, if you don't believe the plan that you're on, as soon as there's any kind of obstacle, the results are catastrophic. The whole thing gets blown up. They start off and they're really excited because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to drink these purple shakes. I just have 3 of them a day. After 2 weeks, they're like, wow, these purple shakes, they really get boring, don't they? And then all it takes is for someone to say, hey, have you ever noticed everyone who drinks those purple shakes is massively overweight? And then in that moment, because they already want to quit this thing, they don't really believe it anyway. As soon as that person says that, the whole thing just collapses. They're like, right, that's it. I'm off the purple shakes. Completely fall off the bandwagon, the purple shakes go in the bin because they never believed the plan in the first place. So it's important that you're on a journey that you actually believe is going to get you to your destination. The third part to staying motivated for me is about habits. Habits have an energy to them, a momentum that's really difficult to overcome. And you know, if you've ever tried to break a bad habit, it can be really difficult because there is so much inertia there. That action has momentum, but we can actually use that same force positively to help us do things, to help us establish positive habits. In my opinion, habits are pretty much the closest thing that we've got to a shortcut. So the third step to getting motivated is to choose the habits that you need to cultivate to get to your goal. That way you can, to an extent, put the goal on autopilot knowing that it's going to happen because you do these things every day. So going back to my weight loss journey, my very short journey over 2 months. I knew the trainer was going to get the results. When they gave me the plan, all I did was look at it and say, okay, what are the habits that I need to get down? I already have the habit of going to the gym every day. That's just something that I've built by just doing it every day. And I also have the habit of getting my meals prepped for me so I don't need to think about it because it saves me time. When the trainer gave me the plan and it was diet and exercise, all I needed to do was change my workouts and follow the workouts that they'd given me when I was already going to the gym and give the meal prep company the diet plan, and that was it. I was going to achieve my goal. How could I not? Because then it's completely on autopilot. I'm at the gym every day anyway, and then the meals that come, they're just different. They're smaller. And they have less yummy stuff in, but I'm still going to eat them, aren't I? So by building in those habits, there was no way I wasn't going to achieve the goal. Compliance was guaranteed because it's already baked in. If I didn't have a piece of my day carved out to go to the gym, I would have had to persuade myself to go to the gym when I felt like it. I never would have done it. And it's exactly the same with business goals. When there's been a time at Exposure Ninja where we need to do something like increase profit margin or grow revenue or build a sales team or add a new product, the important thing is to make sure that there's time set aside every single week for that thing to happen. So whether it's setting a weekly meeting with myself to look at profit margin or to research a particular channel that we need to be moving into or to build out case studies, whatever it is, have to set that time aside because then it becomes a habit and it becomes something that you're always focusing on. I'm really working on my leadership at the moment, so I've got these characteristics which I'm trying to embed into myself as a leader. Well, how do I embed them inside me with a habit? Well, I have them listed out and I have characteristics and I write examples of when I embody those characteristics. So then I just set aside time every day with myself to read through this sheet. What's the characteristic I want to embed? What does it look like in real life? What are some examples of when I've exhibited this? And if I do that every single day, those will become completely second nature to me. So it doesn't become something that you have to kind of force yourself to do because it's already in the calendar. I'm already doing it. It's a done deal. And if you just spend that time every single day, then it's just going to become a habit. And then you're going to get there, no questions. There's really no possibility of failure. Once a positive action becomes a habit, then you're set, aren't you? So I hit my 10%, I ate my mince pies, and now I'm about 11.5%. So I've got to figure out how to get back down to 10%, but I know I can do it because all it is just putting in place the habits that I need to cultivate to get to that goal. So obviously those are some very linear, simple goals that we've talked about. For other more complex goals where you're going to be coming up against opposition and barriers and doubt, you're really going to need to be able to stay motivated. So in the next video, I'm going to explain my process for staying motivated.